Okay, the next thing we're going to talk about is just a quick discussion of how the unit operates. The air comes in from the air regulator through this on-off valve, and it comes down this tube and on into the inside of this cover. It then takes a right turn and comes upward through this tube, which you'll notice is always empty, and it should remain empty. It goes up through the metal standpipe, which actually goes through the beads and comes into this void up here above the beads and pushes down on the beads to push them out. The beads exit this aperture here and follow this tube down. This tube should always be full of beads. There should be no air bubbles, and if you put your finger behind it, you shouldn't see a shadow behind it, whereas if I put my finger behind this one, I can see the shadow of my finger behind it. Okay. The beads rejoin the airstream, which comes across here as well as going up here. They rejoin the airstream and get injected in there, so now you've got beads moving very quickly, and they go through this tubing and around through the back of the unit, and then they come back into the unit through this hose up here, down through the wand, finally into the tip, and out into the investment mold. Okay, next we're going to discuss the routine maintenance of the excavator unit. We just talked about the way the air pressurizes and pushes down on the beads. So this plastic jar is pressurized during normal operation. In order to make that happen, there is in the lid a seal which should be at least inspected, if not removed and cleaned on a weekly basis. Okay, now we're going to demonstrate how to specifically clean and replace the ring. I have just a plain pocket screwdriver here, about an 1/8 wide tip, just anything that can compress the ring slightly and allow me to pop it loose, and it comes right out. Then I'm going to set the lid aside temporarily for a second, and I'm going to take a dry paper towel. It's important that the paper towel be dry and not wet, because if it's wet, it will cause beads to adhere to it. And I'm just going to pull the O-ring through it slowly and make sure, and I'm gripping it on all 4 sides, so I'm just going to wipe every surface of this O-ring and slide it through. That's all that's necessary. Okay, now I'm going to set this aside for a second, and I'm going to go back to the lid, and I'm going to inspect the groove and any bead accumulation inside the groove. I'm going to wipe that out as well, and I'm also going to wipe around here on the threads, and if there's any really stubborn caking inside the threads, I might just take this and lightly run it through the groove and get the caked beads out of the groove. Okay, not too much pressure, but just something to get the caked beads out of the threads. That'll make your life a lot easier screwing the lid off and on, and it also makes for a better seal. One last wipe with the towel, and now I'm going to replace the ring in the lid. I'm going to lay it back in, and then I'm going to begin to massage the ring, the square O-ring, into the groove with my thumbs, and it will run and hide from you a little bit. Sometimes you have to come from opposing directions. Okay, we've got the O-ring back in the groove. It's reasonably flat, but what we're going to do now is just going to place the lid onto the jars, run it on real quick, and give it a nice little snug down. And then we're going to back it off and inspect it real quick, just to make sure that we've got the ring seated flatly into the groove. It's reasonably flat. I run my finger along there. I can feel the edge of the groove and the lip on the lid, and I can feel a nice uniform surface there. And so this is, and now we're done maintaining the lid. I'm going to replace it on the jar and give it just a bit of an extra snug there. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to inspect the O-ring seal in the tip of the unit. This is a plastic housing that unscrews the tip assembly from the wand up above here, and we'll disassemble that and inspect it. Okay, I'm going to reach inside the unit and I'm going to unscrew the housing from the wand. I'm going to keep it upright at all times because I don't want to lose the O-ring inside. Now I'm going to tip it over and tap it lightly, and actually just go ahead and drop the nozzle out. But the thing I want to stress here is that you don't want to lose this little O-ring in the tip of the unit. This again can become caked with beads or very fine dust, and it's a critical seal area in the unit. So once again, you want to take the unit or the O-ring and just kind of give it a wipe down, massage it a little bit so that it pops back into shape. It flattens out quite a bit once it's in the unit, but if it's left to the free air a little bit and massaged a little bit, it will take on more of a round shape. And then you want to inspect the inside of the housing here and make sure there's not any bead debris on the inside of the housing. If you have a fine paintbrush or just the tip of a paper towel, you can wipe the inside of the housing and maybe tap it lightly on the door for any dust removable. And then reassembly. This is very important. The housing, grasp that, place the tip in first, and then place the O-ring on top of the tip, not the reverse. You don't want to put the O-ring in underneath the tip. And then simply reinsert and screw the housing back onto the wand. And give it just a bit of a snug there, okay? And that's it for the tip maintenance. Okay, the last regular maintenance item that you'll want to do on a routine basis, I would recommend weekly, is just on the back of the unit, inspect this clear plastic bowl for any evidence of humidity or moisture droplets, and especially if there's any accumulation of moisture in the bottom of the bowl. This is moisture that came in on the airline and has accumulated in the regulator catch bowl. The way to drain that or get that moisture out of the system is to simply place your thumb and forefinger underneath on this black plastic ring and press upwards until you hear a whooshing sound. That whooshing sound is just the check valve opening when you push the ring up, and it's blowing the moisture out of the system, and it will exit down here below the ring. Blowing that dry once a week is just a pretty good way to prevent any excess moisture accumulation from going through the regulator.